And I think we are live. Hi Heather, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm super excited for our conversation today and for you to answer all of the awesome questions that have come in. Are you ready to get started?
I am.
Awesome. So the first question that is on everyone's mind is how can you tell that cybersecurity is right for someone, a career in cybersecurity is right for someone, a right trajectory for their career?
And this is an interesting question. And this is something I'm asked all the time. And to be honest, when I first started my career in cybersecurity in 2002, I thought it was a stepping stone. I wanted to do CSI and be stringing walls with blood, but then I fell in love with it. I I think a personality type matters. You have to be intuitive. You have to be willing to dig. I would love to say patient, but I am a very impatient person. So that's not, but I think just having intuition and curiosity, but a great way to test it is participate in one of the community CTFs. If you do these community capture the flags, it's free. You get access to tools, you get to see the answers, and then you know if this is something that even piques your interest because it's fast paced, always changing. And if you're the type of person that needs your daily activity to be the same every single day, it may not be the right choice for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does sound like a very dynamic field with things popping up and just learning on the job and new technologies. Very, very exciting.
Yes.
So if a person, and I agree with you 100%, like you gotta like try it out for yourself. You gotta put that hat on and really see whether it's something that you can do on a daily basis. But let's say that somebody knows that they are interested. Everything that you're saying right now is super exciting for them, but they have no background, obviously, in the industry. Where would you recommend for them to start? What are the first steps, and how would you recommend for them to study and practice their skills?
One of the greatest resources I think right now is Twitter. And I know that may sound lame to people, but Twitter is my almost like the heartbeat to everything in the community. So find people in Twitter that you see that are loud about DFIR or cybersecurity. Start following them, see who they follow. Click on the resources, read the blogs. There are so many free resources out there. And I know some people are probably thinking, oh, Heather's going to tell me to take a SANS course. No, we don't expect you to take a SANS course when you're new because you need to get your feet wet. You need to see what piques your interest. Listen to the free Tech Tuesday workshops where you'll get some hands-on. Take any of the vendors out there all around, do all these free webinars and webcasts. So start listening to people and see what, I don't know, there's always something that I feel like you'd be like, wow, I like what this person said, or I like the style of Micah when he talks about X, Y, and Z. You need to find someone that can speak to you in a way that you can learn it. And I think that's the hardest thing, but there are so many free resources. And I think the hardest thing is finding them. And I actually wrote a blog about it. And Ladrina helped me do this. She's another female in cybersecurity. And we just put together a list of here are people to follow. Here are things that you could do for free. And it's on smarterforensics.com.
Smarterforensics.com. I'm going to share that in a tweet or on Instagram as well. So for anybody who's watching this, watch out for that link. And okay, so this is a question that comes up a lot whenever I talk about cybersecurity and career in cybersecurity, and especially when I was doing that SANS Foundations course. And actually, we have a question on this in the chat already. What are some entry points into cybersecurity? What are the roles that one can do having just learned some cybersecurity skills? What are the good entry points into a career in cybersecurity?
There are so many. And I always come across people who think, oh, I have to work in the SOC first. Like I have to do this, or I have to go into IT. And you don't. A lot of it depends on the requirements of the job you're applying for. But I feel like can I discuss males versus females here from my own personal perspective? So females, for some reason, and I don't know if Lee, my co-author, is listening to this right now, but we always talked about this. And I remember her mom saying something to me when I was 18 or 19 years old. She's like, Heather, you're so brave. You just apply for things that you don't even meet the requirements of. And it was rare. Most women will look at job requirements, say, oh, I don't meet that one, I can't apply. I have seen resumes where I'm like, why am I looking at this resume? But then I'm intrigued. So I interview that male and he gets the job because I'm like, oh yeah, we can train you to do this. So I think throwing yourself out there, regardless of meeting the requirements, is amazing. I've had random people email me their resume lately saying, can you look at this and just tweak this? I'm like, tell me the job you're applying for. And then I send key points, but I would have never asked someone to help me do that. So I think knowing someone that will help you get into that position is the easiest way in. So when you find it, that's where you go back to Twitter and say, oh, wow, this person works at CrowdStrike, and maybe that's where I want to work. Don't be afraid to reach out and say, hi, I'm applying for this position, or reach out to someone in between and say, okay, these two people are friends and Heather seems like a nice person. Maybe she'll do an intro for me. And it happens all the time. Like I do it with Robert M. Lee at Dragos all the time. Like, hey, will you look at this resume, push it to the top? Because sometimes just having someone bump you ahead is going to help you into that career. And I stepped right in as an evidence technician. I had no idea what computers really were. On my first day of work, I didn't know what a hard drive was. And here I am.
That's insane. That's crazy. And yeah, that speaks to the power of networking and how, social media has made it so much easier to network. Just find people, reach out. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're not going to respond. So what? But job applications are very similar. A lot of them you're never going to hear from, but might as well just try to get a connection in between. So that's such a great point. And actually, you kind of led me into my next question, because I do want to talk about the challenges that women in cybersecurity may face. So in your experience, what are the challenges that women may face in working in the industry or starting their career in cybersecurity?
I feel like my experience is very different from others. Every mentor I've ever had in my life has been a male, and I've had a very good experience with that. Now, have I had bad experiences? Absolutely. I did something for work, and they called it like Wonder Woman of Celebrate. And they asked you, what's the worst comment that has ever been made to you as a female in cybersecurity? And I had a student ask me who cooks for my husband when I'm teaching. And I was in shock. I'm like, he cooks for himself. Like, why? What is happening right now? Like, it's crazy, like some of the things you will hear. But I've been lucky not to experience a ton of that. When it comes to all the stereotypes, it is a male dominant field. Anyone who says it's not is crazy. What I also find sad is I reached out, I tried to start this SANS female instructor and authors, just like a little community. And we call it ladies night, and it's nice. And we all get together, and it's just a place to have a sounding board of females. But when I reached out to the male curriculum leads, I said, can you send me all the females in your group? And they were so apologetic. Like, oh, we need more. We're not doing a good job. I'm like, no, you're not. It's not your fault. Are women applying? It's not like we're not applying. Maybe cybersecurity isn't the attractive field that people push toward. Although now I feel like I see a big swing in it. Like I am seeing more females. I always have a female in the classroom. If there's not, it's odd. It's definitely like you see it reversing a little bit, which is nice. But I just think when I started, I was 22-year-old going on search warrants, traveling around. And I think you just need to find your tight-knit group of people you trust and let them groom you and ignore the noise, because you will get noise. And there is jealousy, and sometimes things will be thrown up. And I've heard some women say, someone said I only got X because they needed females in this position. It's noise. Ignore it. Like anything like that, especially now with everything that's going on in the world, I feel like there's always a lot of noise. Trust yourself, ignore it. You are who you are. Who cares? Just do your job.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Honestly, and I love the fact that you are seeing more women who are entering the field. And that's what I've been experiencing on the social media side of things as well. So many more women are trying to get into cybersecurity and find that career path super exciting. And it sounds like you've been just really head on and incredibly brave throughout your career. And you didn't really necessarily see the challenges as much, just probably because of your the way you were just, you know, heading. You weren't
Yes.
looking around and doubting yourself just because of certain things. So you may have not even noticed certain comments or something like that. But for women who are more sensitive and who, you know, allow self-doubt to creep in sometimes, what would you recommend? How would you recommend for them to deal with those challenges that are unfortunately along the way?
Well, I think you shouldn't bury them. And I've had people reach out saying, this happened to me, or this happened to me, or I was told because I had a baby, I can't do this, or because I'm single, they don't want me traveling with the men. It's extreme all around. Talk to people about it. Like, don't keep your voice quiet. If it's weighing on you, it's going to impact your job. So reach out to someone and say, hey, what's your experience with this? And I have that happen all the time, especially if you think you're not getting promoted because of your preferences, your gender, how you're identifying, all these things. Reach out to someone. There is a community of people who probably have experienced it, witnessed it, or will help you. Now, I'm not saying go to Twitter and blast what's happening in your personal life, because you don't want to do that, but just reaching out to people that you trust and forming a community, because you are going to face bias. I've witnessed every single person I know, I think at some point has witnessed or experienced some kind of bias in their field. But as women, I would be lying if I said it wasn't harder. It definitely is. Like, I've been seen as like, oh my gosh, are you going to have more babies? Please say no. Like, all of these different things of, well, what about your husband? What about this? Who cares? Let me do my job. And that's why I've been so lucky in my current positions. I'm treated as Heather who does forensics, not Heather the mom, Heather the wife, Heather the friend. And that's what you need to find, is that safe place that lets you just excel.
Absolutely. Communities are everything, honestly. And the great support system that you get from there really helps you through all the tough times that unfortunately everybody faces, regardless of your
Yes.
gender, regardless of your stage throughout life. It's just life is, and I think the last year or so has showed us just how much things can change at like this.
Yeah. And what's sad is it sometimes can take one comment to completely break you down. And I wish I had advice on how to get beyond that, but things hurt my feelings all the time. I would be lying if I said they didn't. Like, one nasty comment and it's like sticks with you, right? Like, we're all human. You just need to like have a sounding board of people that you can push it to, let it be, and it's done.
100%, 100%. And those comments do end up toughening your skin and building yourself, making you more resilient and honestly, more brave, because that you keep on showing up, regardless of what other people saying, and that's incredible. I feel like that builds so much character, and that is amazing.
It really does. I had a manager once who, he was very high up in the company too. He told me he has an issue with women who are technical, and he did not want to see me progress. And then one of I think he was like the vice president of engineering, he sensed it and took me under his wing. He's like, I'm going to transfer you under me. And it was fantastic. Like, he let me soar. So it's something like that. I got lucky. I kept my mouth shut because I'm like, I can't complain about the COO. Like, he runs the operations here. Like, he just does not like me. It is what it is. I tried to stand my ground, but almost to the point where I'm like, will I be fired if I keep bucking up a little too much?
Finding your people is everything. And yeah, there will be good and bad people. And I feel like the reason why they're good and bad people is why we need cybersecurity, right? Because there are people who exploit the good people. And actually, that takes me to the next question, which, you know, with the pandemic, we saw a soar in cybercrime, and the new types of malware and cyber attacks were just popping up left and right. And the Colonial Pipeline ransom attack, that was just a perfect example of the scale of these attacks. So would you say, what would you say are the latest challenges to cyber practitioners and those working in forensics in like these days, now that we live in this pandemic era?
The hardest thing from what I've seen over the last, since March 2020, everything is everywhere. We are no longer in confined workspaces with controlled devices. Even the level of access, if you think about how you communicate, how you're sharing data, people who worked in classified environments even had to get creative on how they were going to communicate, share data So there's so many vectors leading out that's helping people get in. And that's why these ransomware and all these horrible things are happening. But it's also changing the direction of a lot of things that we're doing. I've been working a lot with Ryan Chapman. He's writing a ransomware course, and the excitement of all these things going on, it's the education, prevention, and mitigation. Like, what are you going to do when it happens? But I think one of the worst things is everyone is ignorant to the fact that you are important enough to be attacked. It's not that you're not interesting. Like, it could be a random thing that someone clicks on or does that makes you now the most interesting aspect, because you are now the point of failure into an entire organization. And I used to joke all the time, like, no one wants to see my stuff. I'm not that interesting. Then you have to wonder, like, but am I? Scary.
Yeah, honestly, that used to be my joke too. Not anymore.
I know, it's scary.
Yeah, it is very scary. And the fact that, yeah, work has been taken into, it's a spectrum now. It's not like isolated locations that you have to protect. It is very scary. And the fact that cyber criminals are just getting, more and more inventive. Although when haven't they been inventive?
Mm-hmm.
They have always been inventive.
And for anyone who's new, there's something called the SANS Analyst Program, and we do papers, we do presentations, and it's all free. But all these things we talked about so far, like being a woman in cybersecurity, I pulled women who are brand new all the way up through CEOs. Like, what held back your career? What helped your career? What do you see as the biggest hurdles? And people can read that. Mm-hmm. We did one on remote working, like the biggest vulnerabilities, the biggest issues. Lee and I are working on one now with like mobile security. Like, what are the biggest concerns? Like, I have people all the time like, oh no, my Instagram was attacked, or someone hacked my Facebook. I can't get in, and they think they're dying because they can't access their social media. But all these things are free, and they're resources, and they're out there for you. So you should definitely take a look. Even like insider threat, all of that stuff. There's so many topics covered.
100%. And I'll share the links to those resources after the live stream, because I think that information is super interesting. And also, if somebody who's watching this is thinking, okay, maybe I'm interested in cybersecurity, but I'm not sure, I feel like reading that stuff will definitely either spark something or be like, okay, this is not for me.
Yes.
And so I've had some very interesting questions coming from Instagram. And because we have some time, want to jump into those?
Let's do it.
So the first one is, what are the stereotypes that media or movies create about cybersecurity that you would like to change, about cybersecurity or about working in cybersecurity?
Oh, good. A few things here. So we're not all Jason Bourne. We cannot just replicate everything on the fly. Often too, like time. If you look at the time in a 30-minute TV show and everything is solved or everything is replicated by plugging in a USB, it is not like that. And it's difficult and requires a lot of training and a lot of validation. And rarely do you plug something in and get your immediate answer. So I think just the time to evidence is 100% falsified. My dad believes everything he sees on TV is true. I think my dad also thinks I killed Bin Laden myself, like all these crazy things that you see, and it's not that exciting. Like when people say, what do you do? Like, I do computer forensics. It's kind of boring. And that's sad. That's what I say. I say it's kind of nerdy. And I just let it be, because I'm like, I don't know how to explain it to people, because it's not what they see on TV.
100%. Yeah. What they see on TV is these like big holographic screens, but they're a touch screen. And all of a sudden you debug something and find a problem like in the network using whatever equipment.
Yes, when in reality it looks like this, with like all your devices piled up and craziness.
That's awesome. So you have all the types of mobile devices over there.
Yes, just in case.
Just in case. Got to test them all, right? And the next question is more personal. What made you get into cybersecurity originally, and what is your favorite part about it?
So it was an accident. I graduated with a degree in forensic science, but like I said earlier, it was more crime scene. But this is before CSI TV show. It's before it was a real thing. So I was going to have to become a police officer to do it, and I did not want to do that. There was zero chance I would feel confident in being a police officer. So I'm like, yeah, it's not for me. I was in the Air Force on the back of a C-130 plane flying to my drill weekend, and someone said, "Hey, are you the forensic girl?" I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "Do you want to interview with the State Department?" And I was like, "Sure. I don't even know what this means, but I need a job." So I got the interview. And like I said, I didn't know what a hard drive was. I had a fantastic boss, and he made me interested in it. He's like, "You want to learn?" So I would create files, delete files, and then dig them back up. And he made it fun in a way that I would understand, like, okay, this stuff's supposed to disappear. Why did it come back? So I liked the education aspect of it. And to be honest, did I get bored at points in my life? Yes. And then that's when I hit mobile, and mobile changes so fast. It's such a giant nightmare, but I love it. I love that I don't have the answers to everything. I love when people reach out, I'm like, "I don't know, but I'm going to look it up now because I'm curious to keep learning." So that's what keeps me here, is learning always. And the impact, everything from terrorism to child exploitation, the cases matter, and it really does change people's lives.
That is crazy. I have goosebumps. Honestly, it's insane. And I love the fact that you were learning on the job. That is
So much.
I love that. And it goes for, again, what you said earlier. Women tend to apply for jobs that they are 150% qualified for. I know my math doesn't work, but but it's why apply for something that you can still learn at, you know?
And
like,
the only thing I had that really met the requirements other than the degree was I understood the federal rules of evidence. That's it. I had a class on it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I qualify for this job." And here I am almost 20 years later, which is crazy.
Absolutely crazy and amazing as well. Sometimes accidents lead to the most beautiful things and the most meaningful things.
Yeah. And honestly, I would miss it. My boss at work, he's like, "What would you do if DFER ended tomorrow?" I'm like, "Why would you say that? That's horrible." And he's like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I'm like, "This." I want to be what I'm doing right now. And he's like, "No, think forward." I'm like, "No, I still want to do this."
That's awesome. That's the best kind of, honestly, the best kind of feeling when you know you're in the right place, you're doing the right stuff, and it's always challenging. It's always making you grow because it's dynamic. The field is growing with you.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm trying to teach my kids, I'm trying to bring them into things. Like my son's actually going to be in a securing sand security awareness video with me, just talking about how does he feel about the restrictions I put on him? Does he understand? But just making it so they understand why I am trying to protect them. Like, do they understand what I do every day and how it actually is better for them instead of "my mom's mean, she makes me play outside"?
Oh my God, please create resources for other moms on how to protect
There will be.
Because I'm not a mother yet, but eventually I will be, and I want to I want to follow all those guidelines because, oh my God, this is something that these are the habits that need to be created early
And even
on.
securing your parents. Heck, I could do like securing your significant other because there's a lot of education needed there for me or him.
100%, 100%. But parents especially are so vulnerable to some of the scamming attacks that happen. We all know somebody who has been tricked, fortunately, which is, crazy. I hate the fact that people take advantage of them, but it is the reality that we live in.
It is.
The final question that came from Instagram as well. It's more technical. What mistakes can one make when handling an incident?
So there's a lot. I just did I work at Celebrate in my day job, and I just did a podcast for a competitor, which is great. I like that the vendors are working together, and they asked me a very similar question. But I think they asked me about real mistakes I made in cases, which I shared. And I was like, I won't say names, but these are things I did wrong. But I think the biggest mistake is not learning, assuming that you know everything or being afraid to ask for more information. There is nobody out there that is so smart that cannot learn something. I don't care if you're Eric Zimmerman, who is such a big name. Eric could learn something. Everyone can learn. So stopping yourself from learning is the biggest mistake you're going to make. And that is honestly where your career, I think, in DFIR will end, because people will put you into that pocket of non-humble people. So you want to keep learning, and all of us do that. And I think the group that I surround myself with, we all learn from each other all the time. And even if it's you're brilliant and you learn how to bookmark something in Slack, I don't care. You learned something. Keep learning. That is the biggest mistake you'll make.
That is so incredibly powerful. I completely agree. And I saw a quote the other day. I won't be able to share it back with you word for word, but it was from Adam Grant, and it was talking about whether if you're overthinking something, you know, sometimes it's better to overthink something because that means you're doubting yourself and, you know, you are thinking things through. But if you're super confident about a decision, a lot of the times that means that you're not taking in other information and you're not thinking it through properly.
Yeah, we're all human and it's okay to make mistakes. I think the issue too is people assume they're not allowed to say, I don't know, or I made a mistake. And I actually, on one of my SANS evals once, I had a student complain saying, I came to this class to learn everything. Heather said, I don't know to one of my questions. And I addressed it. Like, if I said I had an answer to everything, I'm lying clearly about something or making something up or embellishing it. It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to make mistakes and not be perfect all the time. And I actually gave this lecture to my son yesterday because he struck out. He's like, it's not okay. It's not okay. And I called him over. I'm like, hey, you try. You're not perfect all the time. Just do better. He's like, all right, Mom. But I think he thought he was going to be in trouble, but it's okay to, you can't keep making mistakes. Once you make that one, you should learn from it and be better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, that should be on everybody's wall, fridge, wherever they look every single day. Make mistakes, but learn from them.
Yes.
Because nobody's perfect. And that's the best way to learn. And sometimes we will make a mistake for the first time in history. Like, this mistake has never been done before because what you're doing has never been done before. So
yeah. And I think a lot of mistakes are made too because intimidation factor or imposter syndrome. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was I was on scene trying to image a server and I did not have enough Linux experience to be there by myself, but I didn't want to alert my boss to it. So I thought I was overwriting the servers and I called him when it was almost too late, but I did not mount the drives correctly. So I was safe, but I was panicked and he's like, why didn't you call me initially? I'm like, because I didn't want you to know that I didn't know. Because I wanted to prove like I can be on site by myself and I can do this. And I almost ruined everything. So it's okay to ask.
100%. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to learn from others as well and not reinvent the wheel all the time from scratch, because what's the point? What's the point?
Exactly.
Well, Heather, thank you so much. This has been incredible and honestly so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, for creating all of those resources out there. And I will be watching out for your guide for how to protect your loved ones who aren't necessarily interested in cybersecurity, because it is nerdy, but it's so fun.
But it is fun. It's fun to be a nerd.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was wonderful. I hope
Thank you for having me.
An amazing day today. And yeah, I look forward to all of those things.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.